The police have arrested a Democrat in the fatal stabbing of an investigative reporter. And it's starting to look like this Democratic official murdered the journalist because the journalist was writing negative stories about him and cost him his election. Now, a lot of people are highlighting the Democrat journalist angle. They're critical of this guy who's got arrested, Robert Tellis. And I just want to pause and say, innocent until proven guilty. I don't know that he did it. I don't know what the resolution of this is going to be. We don't know what the journalist was doing. We don't know. We don't know. I will tell you, though, it does look like this Democrat did it, at least for the time being, and it could be wrong. And I just want to point out how, for the longest time, the media said that Donald Trump's rhetoric was dangerous and was going to incite violence against journalists. And then lo and behold, here's a big story. Democrat Robert Tellis arrested for the stabbing murder of an investigative reporter. Now, I want to pause for 1 second and just say this. I know a lot of people immediately want to be like, whoa, this Democrat, he got arrested. Yeah, hold on there a minute. I'm going to step back. I'm looking at a journalist and, mainstream media, and I'm looking at a Democrat, and I'm not going to jump the gun and assume one is better than the other. Like one person was inherently good because of these roles or the job they had or something like that. Journalists lie. And this guy, Robert Tellis, was tweeting about how this dude was like going through his trash and stuff. Maybe it was facetious. But look, this journalist gets murdered outside of his home. We don't know what happened. We don't. But it's looking bad for the Democrat. I'll just put it that way. I want to make sure that's clear in the beginning because I know a lot of people want to jump the gun and play that the Democrat did do it. Here's the story. A Las Vegas official has been arrested following the murder of a veteran investigative journalist who reported on crime in the city. Jeff German, 69, who worked for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, was found dead outside his home on Saturday morning. On Wednesday evening, Clark County Public Administrator Robert Tellis, 45, was arrested. Tellis, a Democrat, failed to win re-election following a series of stories written by German that exposed the turmoil in his office and claimed that he had an affair with an employee. His home was searched by Las Vegas police hours before his arrest. By 6 p.m. on Wednesday, police had returned to Tellis' home in tactical gear and were surrounding his home while Tellis remained inside. About 30 minutes later, he was wheeled out of the home on a stretcher and loaded into an ambulance. So it also sounds like this Democrat guy was fighting with the cops. I don't know, though. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know what happened. Cops could have come in and thrown him to the ground, hurt him or something, but wheeled out on a stretcher, huh? Daily Mail can reveal Tellis has been railing against German for months, including in an angry series of messages on social media in which he accused him of rifling through his trash and writing lying smear pieces about him. I just got to tell you guys, look, I don't know, but I don't know what happened here. But if you came to me and told me that a journalist was lying, I'd be like, okay, yeah, what else is new? And so maybe it's a story of this Democrat guy. He has this journalist who's lying relentlessly, as we know they do. And they make up sources and things like that. Oh, what was that? Oh, I have the receipts. USA Today to remove 23 articles after investigation into fabricated sources. So, okay, you get the point. So I'm not going to trust this guy. For all you know, this guy, Tellis, had a bunch of fake stories written about him and then snapped and then went and did the unspeakable. That could be the beef. Why? I'm not going to believe this German guy was a good dude. They say, and we just don't know. I'll put it at that. He also had a section on his campaign website called Truth, which referred to German by name and accused him of conspiring with Rita Reid, his challenger in the Democratic primary, for the post of Clark County Public Administrator to create false stories about him. I believe it. Reid, who won the June 16th election, was among those who complained of Tellis's behavior at work, about his alleged affair with staffer Roberta Lee Kennett, 45, to German. He also accused the pair of conspiring with John Cahill, his predecessor in the role, and claimed the trio were attempting to drag me through the mud for their own gain. I can believe it. I mean, seriously, but I don't know. Here's some tweets by Robert Tellis. He says, wife hears rustling in the trash. Her, honey, is there a wild animal in the trash? Me, no, dear, it looks like Jeff German going through our trash for his fourth story on me. Oh, shoot. I left a pizza box and sushi containers in the trash. In the next article, I'm going to have mob and Yakuza ties. Typical bully. Can't take a pound of criticism after slinging 100 pounds of BS. Up to Article 4 now. You'd think he'd have better things to do. Looking forward to lying smear piece number 4 by German. One trick pony. I think he's mad that I haven't crawled into a hole and died. So, In an angry post on June 19th, 3 days after he lost the primary, Tellis wrote, "If Rita does not win, then her position will not be vacated. Then the employee who wanted her position will not get it. This person wanted to work in the position for 3 years to obtain a much higher monthly payment in retirement. For that reason, Jeff German and John Cahill may not be done trying to drag me through the mud. To ensure that Democrats rally around Rita, they would have to turn most Democratic voters against me, even now when I should be irrelevant. Don't be surprised if the articles keep coming. Through all of these articles, I've had the support of my family and friends. Despite what Jeff German and John Cahill have tried to do to me personally, I have been backed up by love and support that helped me to keep fighting for re-election while I have lost. I still yet have that love and support." I just got to say, guys, I've seen so much of this. I actually have a bias in favor of the Democrat here. No joke. Let me tell you how it works. We put on an event in the Philadelphia area. We were putting on, it was 1,000 seats, I think. And we were mostly sold when some Antifa people threatened to burn the theater down. That's what happened. We had an eclectic group of voices. We had Daryl Davis, famous for de-radicalizing Klan members. He was our keynote speaker. And when the local media ran the story about us, they said, "We're going to play both sides here, and you're accused of being far right." And I was like, "Guy, our lead speaker de-radicalized Klan members. Come on." The event was called Ending Violence, Racism, and Authoritarianism. It was like a libertarian conference that opposed racism. And Antifa threatened to burn the theater down, confirmed, and multiple stories written about it. And they came out and wrote this whataboutism, both sidesism piece where they were like, "But critics say the far right should not be allowed to organize because they're racist." And I'm like, dude, some crackpots who threatened violence accused an event that opposes racism of being racist, and you uncritically publish that. Despite the keynote speaker, it is psycho world. That was the great reporting from the local journalists who were like, "Here's what they're saying." Bro, could you do even 5 minutes of research? No. The venue canceled, and we had to move to a more secure facility. The event went off without a hitch, though we ended up having to reject people because the new venue was a smaller capacity. So bravo to the Antifa terrorists who got away with it. And the media uncritically just parroted what they said. When Daryl Davis, again, who's famous for de-radicalizing and converting white supremacists away from white supremacy, when he went out and tried to talk to the Antifa people, they screamed at him, called him a Nazi and a fascist and all those other things. Amazing how that works, isn't it? Well, here's what we got. You expect me to believe that these journalists are just telling the truth? I'm not going to do it. Now, I don't know this guy murdered him, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to sit here and just blame the politician without knowing all of the facts. The police are apparently looking for somebody. This German guy was murdered outside of his home. Let's talk about another story. They arrested Robert Tellis. They went into his house. They searched it. Maybe it was him. Just because the police arrest him doesn't mean he did anything wrong. This guy, Robert Tellis, is talking about how this German guy was working with other people to try and get someone a job or something conspiring. What if he's right? What if he's telling the truth and this Jeff German guy got murdered because there was collusion and something behind the scenes with a Democrat? Why does the bad guy Democrat have to be the guy who lost, who was being harassed by the reporter, instead of the Democrat who was accused of malfeasance and working with this Jeff German guy? Did Jeff German question? I don't know the answer. Did Jeff German write negative stories about Rita Reid? Was he only targeting this one guy? I have to wonder. I don't trust any of these people. Hey, look, man, for all I know, Robert Tellis did it and he's a murderer. Fine, whatever. I'm just saying, a lot of angles here. But here's what I love about this story. I love how Brian Stelter writes, September 2nd, 2019, why Trump's constant attacks on independent press are so dangerous. Oh, so dangerous, Brian Stelter. How's the job search going, by the way? You duplicitous, evil man. He says one of the most consistent features of the chaotic Trump presidency are the attacks against the press. Blah, blah, blah. Trump shared 22 posts on Twitter before noon. In between his quotes from Fox News and his retweets about Hurricane Dorian, he blasted the Washington Post and spread misinformation about how major newsrooms operate. He also shared a key line from his re-election playbook, claiming that our primary opponent is the fake news, not the Democrats. Some of what Trump posts with the media is legitimate criticism, but much of it is misleading. At the root of it all is a lie that legitimate news outlets are fake. When he says journalists routinely make up sources out of thin air, for example, he has no proof of that charge. Oh, Brian, you absolutely pathetic, duplicitous man. I just love it. From the New York Times, USA Today to remove 23 articles after investigation into fabricated sources. What was that you were saying, Brian? You duplicitous, you liar, you deceitful, awful man who got fired for being an awful, evil liar? This is the example of why Brian Stelter was just so awful. With no proof of the charge. Now, to be fair, the story about USA Today fabricating stories came out after this. And maybe the real issue is that Brian Stelter is just so bad at his job as a media reporter, he never looked into all of the stories all of the time where this kind of stuff happens. How many journalists have been fired for stuff like this? Ah, yes. Good job, Brian Stelter. With no proof of the charge. He either misunderstands how the press operates or is misleading people on purpose. He's been saying it for years, and he's been corrected for years. So at this point, the latter is more likely. Okay, Brian, here's what I expect of you. An apology. Because maybe at the time you didn't know they were fabricating sources. Well, USA Today was this individual was probably fabricating sources well into this time period. I don't know. The most recent article was published on April 17th. Miranda was not reached for comment, blah, blah, blah. Fired. Okay. All right, Brian, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. How about you go on Twitter right now and say, I was wrong. I'm so sorry to Donald Trump. It turns out he was correct, and there are circumstances where journalists fabricate sources. You going to do it? You going to apologize? Oh, I didn't think so. With regards to fact-checking, the White House press office receives fact-check inquiries from reporters every day. The press office sometimes responds and other times declines to comment. Trump continued, they take good news and make it bad. They are now beyond fake. They are corrupt. The good news is that we are winning. Our real opponent is not the Democrats or the dwindling number of Republicans that lost their way and got left behind. Our primary opponent is the fake news media. In the history of our country, they have never been so bad. They might have been, dude. They might have been, maybe not as bad as now, but they've been bad. He goes on to mention Maggie Haberman. Oh, I love it. He says Maggie Haberman of the New York Times, who is also a CNN political analyst, tweeted out an observation that a Trump advisor shared with her weeks ago. That the president, whose own approval ratings have stayed upside down, needs voters to feel negatively, not just about his opponents, but about the long-standing institutions. Oh, Maggie Haberman, didn't you have damning information about Trump, but you held on to it? And you didn't release it until your book was published? Oh, you know why, right? They want to sell books. They want to make money. It's crazy. This industry just really, really is crazy. We have people come on Timcast IRL all the time to sell books. And the funny thing to me is I know how much sales our show, I know the amount of sales that our show can pull in. And then I just wonder, I'm like, destroying the country for what? A few thousand books? Seriously, a few thousand books? No, think about it. If Maggie Haberman is right in that Donald Trump, is doing illicit dealings or whatever, and she holds that stuff to sell a book, she is withholding critical information from the public to make money. That's what they do. That's quote unquote journalists. And Brian Stelter comes to the defense to help support the lies and the manipulations. It's gross. It's crazy. But here we are. Nearly 3 years ago, Brian Stelter wrote this garbage piece. Trump and Fox, a twisted relationship. Let me show you something I really love. Let me show you NewsGuard. NewsGuard says timcast.com, the website that I run, has an 82 out of 100. Oh, it's a great score, isn't it? But what's this? We don't gather and present information responsibly? Now, why is that? What's this? They say we occasionally published inaccurate, misleading claims. Oh, I'm sorry, NewsGuard. What did we do wrong? Out of the 4,000 articles that we had published by the time of them writing this article, 5 of them were bad. I'm sorry. And that's an overestimation. That's unfair to us. It was actually 2. 2 stories out of the 4,000 that we published were bad. Yeah, and we issued a correction because we issued a correction immediately upon being noticed, upon notification. And we had an employee who was lifting sections from other news outlets and rewording part of it, plagiarism. We fired him immediately upon discovering it. We took down the articles and issued apologies, and that's it. We had a bad employee. It's unfortunate. It happened. I think it was a total of like four. It might have been at the time we found like 4 articles, and I think the total may come out to like 7 or so. I'm not sure. Out of 4,000. Hey, man, I'll give anybody the benefit of the doubt. Like USA Today, they fired somebody who wrote 23 negative stories. Well, we never had anything that crazy. We never had anyone fabricate news. That's nuts. We've had we've had stories that need to be corrected. I think we've corrected probably, dozens of stories. And it's usually really, really quick. Like a story comes out and then I'll be like, hey, we got to fix this. This is not correct. And I'll even frame check. I'll be like, hey guys, the framing on this, I don't like. I don't like stories that are negative about Joe Biden. I don't like it's like conservatives say X about Joe Biden. I'm like, no. I don't care for that. Tell me what he did. Give me the criticism later or something like that. But here's the point. That's how the media operates. TimCast.com. Let me show you the corrections on the insane garbage article that NewsGuard wrote. An earlier version of this nutrition label inaccurately described the Tales from the Inverted World podcast as science fiction, inserted bracketed words that muddied the meaning of one of Poole's quotes, inaccurately referred to Poole as Timcast's top editor, and incorrectly described Poole's previous roles at Vice News and Fusion. Whoa there, buddy. Let's try that again. Inaccurately described Tales from the Inverted World as science fiction. One false statement. Inserted words. They fabricated words. Wow. That should be like 10 strikes in one because that's fabricating information. But we'll just give them 1 strike for that. Inaccurately referred to me as the top editor. Inaccurately described my job at Vice. Inaccurately described my job at Fusion, and also falsely claimed I live streamed from Brazil and Turkey with Google Glass. 6 errors in one article. And these people have the nerve, and Brian Stelter has the nerve. No. When I hear that a Democrat is criticizing the media, I don't immediately blame the Democrat. I think Trump was right. I think Democrats, for the most part, are corrupt. For the most part. I think a lot of Republicans are corrupt too. But I think for the most part, Democrats, it's the rule. Republicans, it's the exception. Why? Well, because we have like Rand Paul. Legit. Good dude. You have people like Thomas Massey. Legit. Good dude. You've got Republicans that ain't all bad. Now, it's true of Democrats too. There are some that are all right. Ro Khanna, I think, is an all right dude for sure. However, Democrats march in lockstep and vote in lockstep with the machine. Republicans don't. I don't like the Republican Party. I'm talking about the fact that there are more Republicans who push back on the machine than there are Democrats. Exception, rule, you get the point. Look at this. Editor's note, the nutrition label was updated on August 23rd, August 9th, and August 8th to add corrections described above, to add comment from Poole responding to blah, blah, blah. Here's the point here. When they published this, I said, how are we irresponsible? We should have a perfect score. And they say, well, 5 out of the 4,000 articles we deemed to be, problematic. And because you didn't correct them until we told you to, you're irresponsible. And I was like, no, irresponsible would be not correcting them. And we did as soon as we were notified because we make mistakes. And they said, too bad. And so then I said, hey, your article has a bunch of false statements in it. They issued some corrections on August 8th. And you know what? I didn't give them an exhaustive list of the errors immediately. I was like, is NewsGuard going to be responsible? They weren't. They did not do a critical review of the piece. And then I said, you guys also didn't correct these things, right? So on August 9th, they issued more corrections. And then I said, on August 9th, they still didn't issue a correction on everything. I said, you're not following your own corrections policy. And they send me a legal letter from their lawyer saying, screw off. They asserted they had no obligation to fix their fake news. So I escalated and I said, how about you answer in a federal court filing why you think you can violate your own policies? You admit these things are incorrect. You won't correct them. And then I said, and you know what? Here's the best part. Here's another factually incorrect statement. Now, I believe there are more incorrect statements in this. It took NewsGuard 2 or 3 weeks to finally fix the BS. This is what you need to understand about the media. How they lie and manipulate, and they do it for money and political power. So, am I going to blame the Democrat or the journalist? I don't know. The journalist got murdered. We'll see how these things play out. It's looking like the Democrat did it. But I want to remind you how evil people in media are. It was only after like 5 legal demands that they actually issued a correction on August 23rd. It took from the 9th to the 23rd, so 2 weeks. The whole process was over a month, or was around 3 weeks to a month. And they still refused to say that we were responsible, despite them having lower standards than us. That's how the media operates. They knew they lied. Here's the best part. See where it says they inaccurately described Tales from the Inverted World as science fiction? It took them 2 weeks to admit to what they did wrong as per their own corrections policy. These people are duplicitous. They are liars. They are evil. The moment they reached out to us and said, hey, this story is incorrect, I said, thank you for letting us know. Immediately told the guys, fix this. We do not allow fake news on timcast.com. And it was an error. We make mistakes. It happened. They came to us and said, why didn't you claim Donald Trump is lying about the election? And I said, all we are doing is writing a story about a quote. And they said, well, that's irresponsible. And I said, then we'll change it. If you think that context is important, we'll add that. And they falsified a quote from me. That's how evil these people are. So when I saw these tweets from this Democrat guy, and he said they're lying about him, I'm sympathetic. I am. Now, I don't know what he did. I don't know if he did it. Innocent until proven guilty. And if he did, then he deserves to go to prison because the violence is wrong. But don't come to me and act like you whiny little babies in the media who lie all day, every day are the poor victims all the time. Then you go out and attack Donald Trump and say Trump is making it dangerous. MAGA Republicans are going to attack journalists. Oh, apparently the news is it was a Democrat who did it. Amazing, huh? I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.